Do or do not. There is no try.
It was a beautiful day, the sun beat down, I had the radio on, I was driving, the trees flew by, me and Del were singing a little runaway, I was flying, yeah, I'm running down a dream that never would come to me, working on a mystery, going wherever it leads, running down a tree.
Actually, I think there is try. Despite what Master Yoda says, we're all trying to strive, we're all trying to improve ourselves, I think, through this sport, and I'm going to keep trying and set goals and fail, but accomplish some along the way and hopefully grow the process as a person. And I sent out a tweet today, said, you know, as you go through age, or as you age through life, you should be accumulating wisdom and getting more wisdom, becoming more wise, but at the same time you also accumulate bias, which could throw you off or you get distracted. And if you're not accumulating wisdom as you get older, maybe you need to change some things in your life or in your training or running, things like that, because the bias is messing you off. And I often feel more dumb. I feel like I'm gaining stupidity sometimes. I feel dumber than I was 10 years ago. So, you know, it's a process, and that's what I love about running. It's a process. And so we'll look at a recap in this vlog of Zegama. I'll try not to rant too much. I did take some notes though. So I want to show you some clips from Zegama. I just got back from Spain yesterday. Had this amazing experience at Zegama, the marathon race, iconic mountain race. It's just a great experience. I'll run into that, give you some clips, give people some credit for those clips, and talk about kind of the goals and the process and the craziness of any service, any distance. And if you didn't know, I did kind of have a rough go at Zegama. I guess it wasn't really a surprise. I think it was 28th place. It's a super loaded field, really competitive race. Basically, a lot of guys are there that have done it in the past, and the competition depth was really tight with the top 30 or 50 guys. There are guys coming in every minute, every 30 seconds. So if you're just 10 or 15 minutes off in this mountain marathon that, you know, for a lot of people is going a little over 4 hours, I ran about 4:25, I think, then you were going to place a lot worse than if you were 10 minutes faster, if you had a rough day. And basically I'll go through how the race kind of played out, but it's the first race of the big Golden Trail series, super lucrative to do. A lot of Europeans are going to do it, some Americans are going to do it, we're going to try to do it, and that's why I was motivated to go there. I signed up. Of course though, going into this, before when I signed up for Zegama, I got in a spot at Zegama, which is a very hard spot to get, I will say, is that I wasn't planning on doing the Copenhagen Marathon 2 weeks before. And keep in mind, Zegama is a legit mountain race. Like, it's a race I've wanted to do for the last 5 or 6 years. It's just so iconic. The history there, the competition, the epic line, the people mainly are just so amazing. Like Tour de France style, fans cheering up on the mountains in this northeastern part of Spain that I've never been to. It's just super cool experience, an honor to be there. Wonderful culture, wonderful course, good variety. Lots of mud. It was a regular year. The weather changes times from year to year in the course dynamic with the heat and the cold and how the grass, how muddy it gets, like shin deep mud we're talking about, as well as technical traverses. Technical ridgeline traverses, 2,700 meters I think about of climbing. It was I think close to 9,000 feet on Strava for 42 kilometers, or a full marathon in distance. And yeah, some really big ups, big downs, power hiking, gnarly technical rock sections on top. You'll see some of those helicopter clips with, yeah, legit class 3 scrambling. At least in Colorado, US mountains, we rate mountain climbing on a 1 to 5 scale, and usually after class 4, class 5, you're talking about cliffs you could fall off and die. Maybe class 5 you need ropes, harness, and helmet. Well, this is like class 3 scrambling. I was actually using my arms, and I thought I was gonna dislocate my shoulder because I fell, and probably fell like a dozen times during the race. And these sharp rocks, people were bleeding, people got stitches. There were a couple cliffs you could fall off and die. It was real legit mountain running, extreme mountain running, but it also had some more runnable sections on some nice trails. They were extremely muddy in a lot of places. and like really deep mud where you're slipping and falling, and it was crazy. But we got lucky with the weather. Most of the part on race day it was pretty warm. I just didn't have my climbing legs there. I haven't been in the mountains that much in the last 6 months, and you know, people say, oh Sage, you know, you had another failure, you know, a subpar race, you're gonna come up with all these excuses. And you know, maybe I am. I definitely am. These are excuses. I'll state my performance. I think a definition, actually, can I come up with a definition, can I come up with an excuse for the definition of the word excuse? Is that, you know, you're looking at logical reasons why, logical explanations of what happened, and if, you know, it's a logical justification of something that happened as a result, looking at physical things. And you know, I only have myself to blame, really. I knew going in that it was going to kind of be a crapshoot, and again, I didn't deliberately plan on doing Copenhagen Marathon 2 weeks before this, but I was doing a lot of road marathon training for the last 6 months in the winter, and then totally changing any service, any distance motto, which definitely self-sabotages me sometimes, to try to do this gnarly, hard, competitive mountain race 2 weeks later was definitely a huge risk. And you know, I guess optimistically I was thinking, you know, maybe I could somehow survive and get top 10 or place a lot better, run 15 or 20 minutes faster. But at the same time, it could have been a lot worse for me. I could have struggled really bad because my legs, it felt like I didn't have the power and I wasn't climbing very well. I got dropped pretty early in the race and wasn't able to keep up on a really nice climb that I'd usually would probably be more of my strong suit on the course. But I don't know. I could have easily focused on this mountain race and overtrained before it and also not had the climbing legs. So I'm not using that so much as a excuse for another reason, but when we look at the word excuse, I think sometimes people have a lot of negative connotation to it. And it's like, okay, if you were doing a race, a big marathon or any race, ultra trail race, and you got food poisoning the night before, and you were sick to your stomach, and you were throwing up, and you had diarrhea, and you weren't sleeping well, and you were barely eating anything, and you felt really weak and crappy and had a headache, and then you went out and ran a disappointing race, it wouldn't be so much of an excuse, I'd say, to say, oh, you know, I think I didn't run as fast or do as well because I had food poisoning and I was actually sick. That would be a good justification of your performance. It might not be the only reason you ran poorly, but it would be probably a direct reason why you didn't run very well. Because you're dehydrated and your muscles are weak and you haven't been eating and you're all thrown off. And then, you know, there are other aspects that influence performance, and training's the number one thing. I always tell people it's training and your health, your physical health, which is all tied together though with diet and genetics and what else? Sleep and hydration and things like that, and your mental state. Those are all, it's all tied together by dozens and dozens of variables that affect performance. So, you know, I run a bad race and people are like, ah, it's because you're vegan or you're plant-based and you don't have enough protein. That's the only reason I ran slow at Copenhagen. The only reason. When it's probably dozens of reasons. And you know, the training's the big component. People could eat like crap and train really well and be talented and they're gonna run well. They might run better if they eat more healthy, but you know, these variables are all intertwined, so it's hard to just segment them and say like, oh yeah, the number one reason my climbing legs weren't there at Zegama is because I ran the Copenhagen Marathon. Yeah, I think it was a factor. I personally think that, and I'm using that as an excuse, definitely. But you know, I set myself up for that. I knew that, you know, Sandy wasn't coaching me for this. She said, you know, that's a really bad idea, and I agreed. But we were gonna do it anyway. And yeah, the any service, any distance, definitely, I don't mean to self-sabotage myself. I love the sport. I'm gonna take the spot at Zegama because I got it a long time ago and was very lucky and fortunate to get it and to do the trail series. But I think optimistically, and I think of improvement. And I look at guys like Max King, who ran Zegama, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, I think 2012, 6 years ago, Max King ran Zegama, and he kind of had a subpar race. I think he placed maybe 15th or 16th, but he ran maybe a similar time. Can't really compare times necessarily because of the weather, but he kind of had a rough race and didn't finish as strong as he thought he could. Now, he came back this year and got 5th or 6th place and ran a lot better of a time, better of a race, and improved a lot. Same thing he's done at Sierra Zinal, same thing he's done at Comrades. The first time you go at some of these races, you don't know what to expect, and you kind of go out there and lay an egg and not do very well, but then you learn the course, you learn how to train for it better, you can get better. Max has definitely improved his mountain running, climbing ability, and his technical Euro running ability, and part of it's training more in Europe, getting more experience in these races. But you know, he's 38 years old now, and you know, yeah, he's run a faster marathon than me. He's run 2:14 in the marathon, but he's been doing this sport for a long time. He's still progressing in his mid to late 30s, so that's really inspiring to me. And that's someone I always try to be with, and it was great hanging out with him, as well as all these really good international guys, mainly European mountain runners. Spanish mountain runners were extremely strong at Zegama, and guys that have done the race before, or guys that haven't and did well there anyway, who I'm gonna race against maybe later on at Pikes Peak Marathon and Mount Blanc Marathon and other races like that. And so yeah, it's a process. What else did I write down here I wanted to say? Oh yeah, so you know, I'm gonna be honest and put my failures out there to you guys, and yeah, there's a lot of failures, there's a lot of successes too. I'll just report on any race and training experience, because that's what I do in these vlogs, and I rant away. But you know, it reminds me a lot of the Teddy Roosevelt quote, one of them. It's not the critic who counts, the credit belongs to the man or woman that's actually in the arena, whose fate is marred by dust, sweat, and blood. It goes on, but that's one of my favorite all-time quotes. Probably a little overused in the US sports arenas, but I think it really counts, because it's like, yeah, the credit belongs to the people actually running the races and doing these things and experiencing them. And if you only have yourself to blame, you know, it's okay. It's part of a process. And you know, you could be an armchair coach, and it's easy to sit back and be online and be like, oh yeah, like that person, they're not doing this right and they're not running well. And I guess you see that a lot with maybe in the US with people who, I always like the sports fans that yell at like NFL players and football players. I don't follow Major League sports very much in the US, but you know, you'd be like, oh yeah, if I was quarterback, I could throw a football over the mountains, you know, that kind of thing. But you know, it's all relative. It's not really a big deal. I was very fortunate to be there, and you know, there's all these other things in life that are more important in terms of the values and the experience and the personal connections you get. And being able to participate in a race and an experience like Zegama, I think, was a really positive takeaway, and it made me excited. It made me want to go back there and try to improve a lot, because I know what to expect, but it was also very enjoyable to be there and to be surrounded by such an electric atmosphere. You see the fans cheering on the hills. Those hills were pretty remote. It was pretty far out there up on the grass, and it's just a beautiful scenery, a beautiful variety, well-organized event, super exciting, and the competition is super fierce from all over the world. So really cool experience. And okay, I'm ranting here a lot. I'm probably saying a lot, but the main message of this video is what it was in the title, is don't usually follow what I'm doing. I wouldn't recommend a lot of people try to run 100 miles a week or 160K a week, even if they had the time to. I know a lot of you are strapped for time and energy to train, so like you work a full-time job, you have a family, you have to wake up early in the morning to try to get your runs in and get as much in as you can. But people would often get injured when they try to push 100 miles a week or 160 kilometers per week, and it takes time to build up for that. We wouldn't recommend a new runner go out and run 100K per week or 60 miles a week, 62 miles a week, because they could get injured, and you have to, you know, build up into the process. And at the same time, I also wouldn't say, hey, you should do a road marathon and then 2 weeks later do this crazy mountain marathon and expect to do really well in both of them in that 2-week span, with international travel back and forth too. Like, on paper, that looks like a really bad idea. So I'm saying I'm not a good example. You shouldn't follow what I do. I know a lot of you do any service, any distance, though, and you do really well at it, and it's inspiring to me to see and hear that. And that's why at Sage Running we have plans for any service, any distance. But at the same time, yeah, it's, you know, people respond differently genetically to different things and to different structures, and with personal injury history, nutrition habits, sleep habits, lifestyle habits, and how your work obligations, family obligations might structure your day, it's not always a good idea to do things the same way as someone else. And so don't follow exactly what I'm doing, because yeah, I set myself up for disaster a lot of times doing this any service, any distance. But it's fun, and I mean to compete with a focus. I want to have a focus, and I will try to improve on that in the future. So, you know, a lot of you say like, oh, I don't have a focus. I do want to do well. I want to be a really good mountain runner, and that's, you know, the goal and the dream. And I'd like to qualify for Olympic trials by 2020 as well. So, you know, I'm gonna keep doing that. But yeah, you definitely learn along the way, and sharing these experiences online is great positive energy, and just it's a fun sport, and I really appreciate the generosity and the support of you guys in the running community. So thank you, but don't do what I do, usually at least. Some of you might be a little more crazy than me though, and do even more extreme stuff, so that's cool too. But the goal is to stay healthy and enjoy the sport for a long time and to be consistent. So that's what I'm gonna try to focus on more heading into the future now. To better myself is a big reason why I'm in the sport. Yeah, I'm in it for the health benefits and you know, the prize money, I guess, to some extent is an incentive. It's my job, but at the same time, you know, I really just love this sport. I love the sport of distance running, and I think, you know, the racing, actual racing, it kind of beats you up. It's kind of be unhealthy, especially the really long ultras. But at the same time, the training and the process and running as a lifestyle is, I think, very healthy endeavor, and the social connections you make is really positive experience and positive energy. So, you know, going on what's next, I'm gonna do Mount Washington, New Hampshire, and I'm gonna jump right into Mont Blanc Marathon, and I'm really hoping to improve at Mont Blanc Marathon because it is a race I did last year. Kind of had a subpar race, got 7th, but I wasn't happy with my place or time. I think it'll be just as competitive this year, or if not more competitive, but I'm gonna look to improve that time if the weather's kind of similar and the course is the same, because I know what to expect now, and I love Chamonix. I want to race well in Chamonix for the first time, and really excited to go over there, train more specifically for it, getting back into my mountain legs mode, and just doing 42Ks or shorter in the mountains this summer. And you know, that's really the focus. I'm able to run now, being back in the US only a couple days after the race, because Zegama actually didn't beat me up as much as the Copenhagen Marathon did. Copenhagen Marathon, road marathons in general, beat me up quite a bit more. The faster pace, the even distribution of stress on the muscles, the pavement, the pounding, very hard on the body. Whereas the trail marathons, in terms of sheer skeletal muscular stress, you know, it helps when you kind of finish slowly and not run as fast as you probably should have. But you know, that extra working different muscles and, you know, going side to side, being on soft surfaces, 42K on soft trails in the mountains, didn't quite do as much damage. Now that being said, it's a longer race. Mentally it drains you hard. You're dehydrated for a long time. You could bonk a lot harder. So it's a very stressful thing in terms of hormonal changes and the stress, the time zone, and the mental push. Yeah, you don't want to race too frequently, and you don't want to do too many long ultras and keep doing it over and over, because it does take it out of you. It's you know, it takes a while to recover from. So I'm trying to respect that. At the same time, I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic I could jump into mountain season and start adapting better again and doing better again in these races and get my climbing legs back, so to speak. Because I think the transition still will be faster back to the mountains, especially on runnable stuff, less technical trails. And Mont Blanc Marathon is definitely less technical than Zegama. So really looking forward to that, and I think I have the time to do it. But yeah, it's just you know, me being critical of myself. You know, I've always been critical a bit for myself in life, and even in academics. In middle school, I put all this pressure on myself to get straight A's from 6th grade to 12th grade, and I was able to accomplish it, but I lost some sleep over it, and it was kind of stressful. But I was proud that I did it when I look back on it. And you know, whether it helped me get into college or not, you know, it's kind of debatable, but it was a goal I set for myself and something I accomplished. But in terms of like running goals, most of the goals I set out there I didn't accomplish. I didn't crack 15 minutes for 5K in high school. I ran 15:17. I didn't make top 10 at state and cross country in the state of Oregon. I wanted to, but I missed that goal. I was 13th. You know, I wasn't All-American in college in cross country at nationals, D1 nationals. I was 20 seconds off from doing that. 20 seconds in 30 places, I should say. I didn't crack 29 minutes for 10K, or I didn't even crack 29:30 for 10K on the track in college, even though that was my goal. But my other goals were to crack 30 minutes, and I did that. I ran under 30 minutes 3 times in college. I qualified for the Olympic Trials Marathon when I was in college. So I did do some of these goals and accomplish goals, win a conference title in track, things like that. But at the same time, I'm also failing for most of these goals. And as soon as you set a goal, as soon as you accomplish a goal, you just set another goal that's another bar higher. Maybe you have another pie in the sky goal that's a couple bars higher than that, and maybe you never attain it. But that's kind of just the goal setting process, right? You're always setting yourself up for these goals, and yeah, you miss a lot of them. But if you don't keep taking shots, you're always gonna miss them. And so, you know, sometimes you have to readjust goals as things go on in life and as you progress. But you know, that's all part of the sport. It's a tough, demanding sport, and that's why it's also so rewarding and why I love it so much. So yeah, you know, people say out there, you know, just a few of your critics, most of you guys are extremely positive, I really appreciate it, but they're like, Sage, you suck now, when was the last time you know, you won a race or podiumed in a race, and I'll just say, well, I did win a race in March this year, Shamrock Run 15K, and yeah, it wasn't the most competitive. It was still a competitive race, and there were quite a few people there. But even if there weren't, I was still proud of the time and the pace that I put down on that course with that much climbing. And yeah, it was only a 15K, but you know, that was a good effort for me, and I was feeling really good shape before Boston. So, you know, there's a lot of positives. You know, 2:19:50 at Houston this year was already a pretty good marathon for me. Yeah, I missed the goal of Olympic trials by 50 seconds, but 2:19 marathon for me is still not really a joke. So, you know, I was happy with that. Top 10 at Houston, major marathons. And I don't do a lot I haven't done any like small town marathon races. I want to do some of those too in the future. I don't do small little I don't want to say uncompetitive, but less competitive trail races. I do sometimes, but usually all these races I'm doing, I try to pick the most competitive races. I've done 14 road marathons. I only do big marathons usually, marathon majors. I'd love to go to a small town marathon though and do that and get that experience, because I think those are great races. But yeah, you know, total starting line at Boston, I know I'm not going to win or be top 5 and things like that. But anyway, I digress. Hope your running's going well. Thanks so much for following these vlogs. There will be more training talks on here, don't worry about that. Be sure to check out, we have another YouTube channel, Sage Running, for more videos, as well as our website, sagerunning.com, for our training plans. Subscribe on here for more videos from this channel. More training talks coming to you on your way. Hope your running's going well. Thanks so much to all the Patreon supporters for really making this possible, and stay tuned for more Sage Running videos.